family had a vacation house
In Browns Mills.
in Browns Mills until
From 54 to 82.
1982. So Ben has a love of the railroading history of this area also. So we'll start now. I'm going to sit down just so you can see around me. So I'm going to hit the first slide. This is Mr. Jim Laessle, who I met through West Jersey Chapter National Railway Historical Society. Lifelong resident of Moorestown, big love of railroads, and he collected a lot of the pictures that you'll see today. There's some other pictures from some other people, but in 2014, prior to Jim passing away, gave me about 5 big boxes of 8x10 photos and told me that he wanted me to have them. However, I was only the custodian. I wasn't the owner of them, and at some point I was to pass the photos along. And I could add to the collection, but I was not to take anything out of the collection. So we dedicate this program to Jim, whose idea was also to share. When he showed the program, we shared the start of the back road from Philadelphia to wherever maybe the points of interest were. Summary of the program is railroads, as you know, had a big part of establishing communities in all over, but especially South Jersey. So some of what you'll see after a couple of slides of information are some photos that places you would have seen in different eras coming from Philadelphia to Camden to Pemberton. So brief timeline of the Pemberton branch, 1849, when the Burlington and Mount Holly Transportation Company began. 1863, authorized to extend its railroad from Mount Holly to Pemberton. Trains began operating between Burlington and Pemberton January 1st. 1868, the Pemberton Hightstown Railroad began service on February 6th. 1917, Camp Dix opens. 1888, the Union Transportation Company started between Pemberton and Hightstown. The next important date to remember as you're looking at these, the ferry service from Philadelphia to Camden was discontinued. 1969, the last passenger train that ran out returned to just outside here, ran on April 25th. Union Transportation Company ran its last freight on 1977, March 31st. That was dissolved in 1981. 1981, Conrail issued an embargo on the line between Mount Holly and Fort Dix, and this segment was officially abandoned March 30th, 1982, and track removal was completed by June 1st, 1984. So why do they call it the back road? It was called by this name because it was an alternate route between Philadelphia and Long Branch. A more direct all-rail route existed via Trenton, Monmouth Junction, Jamesburg, and Seagirt. So this is a map, and I'm sorry I cropped it off, but I wasn't thinking when I first put this together. So today we're going to just talk about here to here, a little bit into Camp Dix, and just a little bit down here into Upton. Ultimately, the railroad did come out here across Barnegat Pier, and came up as far as Bayhead. Now also you can see where the railroad would come down as far as Bayhead. Some of this now is back to Lumberton, and now it's gone. So employee timetable, which is one of the, I'm holding it up right now, an example one, was required to be carried by all railroad employees during the time frame that it had. And there was a lot of information. So the one we're going to see in the next slide is from September 27th, dated September 27, 1931. Go ahead. So you can see, came out to Long Branch, Bayhead Junction, Browns Mills, Upton, Whitings, but coming out here to Lake Birmingham, Pemberton. Then you had your other routes, as you saw in the other pictures, but you can see that there was more trains at that time than what ultimately was going on. This is just Camden to Bayhead Junction heading east, just an example of one of the pages. We just got this timetable last Saturday from a collection of 1943 timetable, Philadelphia Long Branch via Monmouth Junction. You can see the war bonds advertisement. If you go to the next slide, it's kind of tough to read here, but you can see your Philadelphia, you're coming out to, there's Pemberton, so you can see more trains were running at that time, just passenger trains. So this is 1962 timetable. Only 2 trains were running a day using the same set of equipment. But the interesting thing here is you can see the fares from Pemberton going towards Camden was one way was $1.07. Another 1960, you'll see a couple of these 1963 timetables where we're down to 2 trains a day, and one was all the way from Pemberton to Camden, and then they would return out to Moorestown and just go from Moorestown to Camden. So now the next train timetable is something interesting, and we're going to get into weeds a little bit, but different note. On the timetable, you see the only day that they did not run was September 7th, which was Labor Day. So you ask, why not Memorial Day? And I didn't know this until earlier this week. Memorial Day became a federal holiday in the United States in 1971. In 1968, the Uniform Monday Holiday Act was passed, which moved Memorial Day from May 30th to the last Monday in May. I didn't know that, so I couldn't remember that. So that act also required federal employees to have a day off. So they did run that Monday, but not, so Memorial Day, that's why Memorial Day wasn't noted. Also, if you go to the next slide, 4th of July wasn't noted because in 1964, we looked up a calendar, 4th of July was on a Saturday, which the trains didn't run on Saturdays anyway. But this is, so this is your last timetable, 1964, I'm sorry, 1968. It's a little change in this because of the high-speed line and construction going on. The Broadway station was closed, so you got on a bus and taken to the Broadway terminal for any trains to Philadelphia. And I was told yesterday that at this point, patronage on the passenger patronage was very low. That's why it didn't last long. So here's a 3-month ticket from 1964, purchased in July, expired 10/21. Now each conductor had their own different punch. And so we figured, by looking at this closely, that there was 5 different conductors in the time frame that this ticket was used. So a short list of what traveled on the back road: coal, big for heating houses, dairy and food items for farmers, laborers, lumber, construction materials, mail and express packages, manufactured goods, military material. I'll tell you about the spelling of the word material in a second. And troops, passengers, and sand. We also found out this week that material, if it referred to the military, was spelled E-R-I-E-L as opposed to E-R-I-A-L. So that's why that's spelled as such. All right, so then we start with our photos, and make sure they where most trips would start if you were in Pennsylvania or working in Pennsylvania or Philadelphia. with the Philadelphia Ferry Terminal on the Market Street Wharf. This is not long prior to it closing with the Delaware River Bridge in the background, which came to Ben Franklin Bridge. So these are ferries that were taken out long before the ferry went out of business by Bob Long. Bob had permission, got permission somehow to be all over the ferries. I didn't include pictures in here, but on one of the photos, Bob was even on the roof of the ferry. So this is crossing the river. Just another photo, Delaware River Bridge in the background, looking north. Now this is interesting, he even got down, they were steam powered ferries, and he even got down to the bottom of the ferries where the gentlemen were shoveling the coal into the boilers, just some of the shot on the ferry. The car deck of the ferry, and one of the seating areas outside of the ferry. Camden, you had Campbell Soup, RCA Victor, and you can just about see the Camden City Hall poking up in the background. A postcard showing what was on the Camden side, Camden Ferry House on Camden Street. Yeah, it's Camden Engine Terminal. This is all now where the aquarium is, the entertainment center, the Battleship New Jersey, other building. There was a big railroad terminal, roundhouse there. Another shot of the Camden Terminal from 1964, where all the engines came out here for service prior to their trips. Broadway Terminal, an old picture. We're looking towards the river. Another shot from the street. Trolley car looking up at the terminal. And another photo from August 1955 with the terminal, the Delaware River in the background. We're out now to Cooper River, that's Cooper Tower in the background. We're looking west over the Cooper River, where the train's going to come out to Pemberton, across those tracks. Now we're looking east, or into the city. You can see Camden City Hall in the background. This was a smash board, which if this was down, it meant the bridge was open and trains were not to proceed. Now the date on the picture is wrong. I'm not sure about that. But we started West Merchantville at Browning Road. Shelter was there. Now we're looking towards Pemberton. Same thing looking west here. This is the Merchantville Station. Still there. Shot looking east. Now you also had Merchantville had a freight station, and they also had some freight here, which you'll see in the background. And you also see a semaphore signal. So this is now a parking lot. So when the semaphore signal was going years ago, but this is from 1969 World Proxy Program. So, and Paul's here now, so I put this comment in on something that Paul said. In the next few pictures, you will see Pennsauken spelled with 2 N's instead of 3 N's. And I asked Paul about that, somebody else did, and Paul indicated the proper spelling was Pennsauken with 2 N's. The legislature created the township as a new municipality in 1892. That time, someone not in the know had the idea the word meant pens, hawking grounds, so lawmakers received instructions to spell the name with 3 N's and not just 2. And here before that, I always thought just the Pennsylvania Railroad had a reason for having 2 N's as opposed to 3. So this is a shot that you can't really see it. It's a Tuscan red engine there, but there's the Pennsauken Station, 1954. spelled with two N's, as the railroad did. Later in 1961, station was abandoned, and now this is where current day trains that come out to Hainesport come down using this connection there. That's all gone now, and rails in the background. So now we're looking towards Pemberton. At Union Avenue, the apartment complex is still there, so but the station is gone. So now we have a fast forward to 1969, not long before service was ended. So you have a push pull, which the engine is pushing the locomotive, is pushing the passenger car, and the eyes of the engineer are the two gentlemen standing in the doorway. They also had a horn they would blow for crossings. Let's move on to Maple Shade. Not sure how many are aware of what's there now. It was only about half the size of it is now, and you'll see a building over there in 2013. We were informed that the building was enlarged at some point since it started. This is a Jim Laessle photo. He had a cab ride. This is facing west towards Camden, pulling into the Maple Shade station. Now, 1970, you can see the extra where the chimney was before, where the station was extended to, and the consist here was going into the lumber company that used to be across Fork Landing Road. So now we come out to the Knoll in Moorestown. We're looking towards Camden, and that's a public service bus in the station lot. So West Moorestown, which is now built around, there's a building built around that. And I understand his building in the background was a cold storage building which received vegetables or shipped vegetables to Campbell Soup. Back here you have a freight house. If you're familiar with Moorestown now, that's where the library and Borough Hall is. This was one of Jim's favorite photos at Chester Avenue, called 10 Minutes Late, when Maley used to still travel by rail, waiting for the train, and also up, you can just about see him in here, but the crossing shanty and the crossing guard is still waiting for the train in Chester Avenue. All the buildings in the background are now gone, and the station has been moved about significant difference away from the Chester Avenue. Chester Avenue, 1955. You can see it, who had a basement entrance, such as this station, and the buildings in the background are now gone. So now, this is 1957 train heading towards Camden. Noted it was the last Pennsylvania Railroad steam-powered passenger train on the entire Pennsylvania Railroad system. So that's the significance of this picture. After that, it was all diesel. Forward to 1968. Chester Avenue, Moorestown, and also industry used to be down to Collingswood, which was feed, coal, whatnot, and that's not gone. Now, this is the last day of service, which Jim did ride the train out with several other people. Now, this was April 25th, 1969, at Chester Avenue. Another later shot after passenger service ended at Chester Avenue in Moorestown. Now, this is a John Stone photo. This is a train headed towards Camden, coming back across Ellie Avenue in Moorestown, and that's where, I can't remember the name of the home now, but if you're familiar with the Lutheran home on Main Street, the Lutheran home on Main Street is right to the right.
Breedenhart,
Sorry,
Breedenhart.
thank you. Now, this is the street I live on today, actually, it's called North Stanwick Road. Picture from 1890 of the Stanwick Avenue station. A lot of farms there at the time, and a factory and a factory housing.
That was originally a fairground station. There was
Yep.
an agricultural fairgrounds there.
So this is when the station was a station house for equipment and rail employees to have for this block of the area. This is one of my favorite shots. This was 1962. A troop train crossing Stanwick Avenue from Fort Dix. Remember what was going on at the time with the Cuban Missile Crisis. Pearl Brick and Block was back here. This is Jim Laessle. Jim told me that when he lived in 2nd Street, one of the sounds he enjoyed was laying in bed at night, hearing coal cars getting kicked in Pearl Brick and Block yard, but his wife didn't appreciate the sound, but he enjoyed it. So this is more or less, this look hasn't changed much, but it's one of my pictures from 2010, where this concrete pad is where the Stanwick station used to be. And this is just one of the CA-20 trains returning from working in Hainesport and Mount Laurel. Now, who's familiar where Topgolf is in Costco? Okay, so this is where this Dead Man's Curve in Moorestown, and this was removed since I've been here, and now that's a grade crossing. So this is another one, a picture of John's Stones, where train's heading back to Camden across the trestle at Moorestown and Dead Man's Curve. So, 2008, this is Mount Laurel. I drove right past here this morning on my way here. A train was parked there for a Conrail event that Sunday. But thing to note is under the turnpike are the steel barriers, which are, I saw them this morning, which was to keep ash from steam locomotives from damaging the roadway of the turnpike. And they're still there. Another one of John's pictures, same day he was chasing, he said he was up the embankment like that on this side, the train coming back to Camden. Hartford Station, we're not sure where this really was, on which side of the tracks. But if you go to the next one, this is 1962. You can see the turnpike. Bob Cummins, this is now what's Briggs Road. So, but that was this photo from 1962 of the Hartford shelter. You know, wrecks even occurred. You can see where the shelter was, Hartford Road. John Stone filled me in yesterday that the train that hit the truck was a passenger train that did go through finally, and the engineer, when he saw the truck on the tracks, he said braced himself against the inside of the locomotive as far as he could get to avoid the hit, but they couldn't avoid the hit. And that's a freight train coming out a little later showing damage and I guess dumping stone out of the cement mixer. The SO station in the background, Nash Rambler. So accidents did happen then, come out a little further to Masonville. Now the interesting thing about this photo is, and I passed this morning too, these billboards have changed, but the billboards themselves have changed, but that billboard frame, I didn't know it was there, and that's the only billboards I'm aware of on Warren Highway. So that's, so this is just west of Masonville in 1974, same train. John went out, said he just started driving, got his father's Buick and went out with the camera and taken some pictures, which some of us still do. So 2013, 2014, the bridge was rebuilt over Rancocas Creek. And this is, color's kind of off, but this is a photo during the rebuilding process from Vince Jacobowski, right by Rancocas Woods. We're further out near the industrial park on Warren Highway in Hainesport, where John picked up the train and started his chase in with it. Now, in 2022, I was alerted that on one weekend, this was a Saturday night, all the track was being replaced in the Hainesport Industrial Park yard. So I took a ride out around 6:30 and took some pictures with my cell phone. I thought I'd throw one in, but they got new ballast and new rails that weekend, and they did it all from Friday night to Sunday night, and everything was ready for business on Monday morning. At the Hainesport station, again, we're not exactly sure where that was. And the Hainesport shelter, now you can see the curve going to the bridge over the Rancocas Creek, where you go up next into Lumberton. Mount Holly Freight Station, 1956. All that's gone now. That's one of our members, Norman Settleman, with his sister Norman asked me to make him a picture of that years ago, and said to keep a copy for historical purpose. Had the old mailbox in the corner, but here we're looking towards Pemberton. Now this is later on, obviously, but you can see freight cars where there's now a Napa Auto Parts store and a some kind of eatery, but on the corner you had freight cars went all the way up almost to Martin Highway. Picture from Water Shop, Paul's cousin, from 1962, and somebody told me they wish they knew what day of the week this was, because he said some days of the week freight went to one place, some days of the week freight went to the Union Transportation Company. So we're not sure if this freight went to Union Transportation Company or Fort Dix. Now this is the last train I saw cross Madison Avenue in December of 2009. Back here, it's kind of hard to see in the wall, but there's some boxcars back here. So the train would come out, disconnect past, and what they do, they would pull back towards Camden to do their work. But a couple of weeks later, I went back out, and all this was torn up. The track was torn up in the street, and the crossbars were gone. And this was just pushing back to get their trains. That's the last train I saw, but just a couple of weeks later, that was all gone. And this, ultimately, this concrete ramp was gone. That was 2009.
Was that near the hospital?
Yes, and Madison Avenue is the same street as the hospital.
Okay. You brought back a memory.
So Smithville, between 1890 and 1900, from Jim's collection. Another one from the same collection, maybe a different time period. And ultimately, this is the last picture we have of it in 1961. Now, the interesting thing, trains were still running then, and it must have been a very lush summer or spring, because there's a lot of grass. It almost looks like the tracks aren't used. There are, okay, Ewansville, around 1900. And then, as it ultimately was one of the few concrete shelters. I saw that a few years ago, it's in somebody's backyard now, but from what I can tell, at that point, the shelter was still there. Birmingham. Okay. It's 1958, November, which was the month and year I was born. So, thought the switch was to South Pemberton, but we don't think the switch was to Pemberton. We think that was a team track there. I think that was the conclusion we came to, yeah. That was not the switch to South Pemberton. The switch to South Pemberton was further up at BR Tower. It's one more shot of, maybe not the last shot of Pemberton, but one more shot of Pemberton, or Birmingham, I mean. And then we come to BR Tower, where the junction was, where you either went straight to here, or you went to South Pemberton and out to Bay Head. Now, I'm gonna ask for some comments from some of you here. This is from a postcard. Camden and Burlington County Railroads, that's scribbled on the postcard. Now, this is another one, a picture of 1934 of a round table to spin steam locomotives. Now, does anybody know on this property where the round table was?
Wawa.
I'm sorry?
Right over here, probably Wawa.
Okay, so it's on Wawa property or this property?
It might be on the Rails of Trails property or something. I can show you where, the weeds are pretty high. We did uncover it for a while, like 12, 14 years ago, but it's, parts of it are still there.
Okay,
I guess that's the one. The only one, right?
yeah, the only thing else I had pictures of was when you had the ash pit on the corner.
Yeah, that's still uncovered. I'll show that to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's 1951. See the section house, the original section house. Does anybody have any idea what the businesses were in the background?
Montgomery's?
It's a lumber yard, I
Used to be
Yeah, it was
Montgomery's.
Montgomery back then.
Lumber and coal. Figure.
Okay. Now, we just got another collection of photos from Edwin K. Birch Sr. So these are some pictures from his collection of some locomotives that were here. So this is a famous engine now which resides in Strasburg Railroad Museum. It's a Lindbergh engine. There was a Lindbergh flight, and this was famous because it pulled the people that did the film. They developed the film on board the train on the way to New York. The other film was flown to New York, so they had the advantage of their film being shown first because it was developed on the train, whereas the people had to develop their film when the planes landed. So they're nicknamed the Lindbergh engine, but I heard, somebody told me it ran a lot on the back road, and also somebody said if engines came to die, they came to die on the back road. It's the wood caboose that was here. Pennsylvania Railroad P70 coaches. Just how the engines were served. What you can't see because of the exposure was a little steam up here, some steam leaking out. So I'm thinking because of no foliage on the trees, that was perhaps a cold day. Better shot of the 460, the Lindbergh locomotive. Now you can see some lumber sheds back here. You'll see more of that. So this is, somebody said this was the J.G. Montgomery building here at Hanover Street. It's from a postcard. Gas Electric
Residential homes, yeah.
card.
Residential homes also.
Okay.
Joe's dad worked President Homes, right?
Yes. then it became Croco.
Yeah.
This was a rail fan trip in May 1959. We don't get dressed up as much on these as they used to, but apparently I believe that day they went to Tom's River in Medford, and as well as Pemberton. So some rail fans taking pictures, and Paul, you might know Don Laessle, that might be George Springer.
Yeah, and
So-
the guy next to him, I think, might be Walt.
Okay. Now, Ben told me this is how he remembers the station in 1961. Curve off to Fort Dix. No date on this, but some of the equipment that came here. This is a Dave Sweetland photo. I don't think it was the last day, but you'll see in the next picture, you'll see this same car in the next picture. So this was the last day, and crowd shot from the last day from Jim's collection, and Don reckoned, and a couple people were pointed out, but that was how many people they had. They put on an extra coach that day. I told him it was very crowded that day. But you had to figure out how you were going to get back to wherever you came from. Some people left cars here. This was from 1917, just a short example of a Camtix railroad service timetable coming through Lewistown, Decorah, going up to Trenton, ultimately New York that way, or that was coming from New York to Camtix, and this was going from Camtix to New York. Just thought that might be of interest. Camtix postcard, which was in Jim's collection. One of the locomotives at Fort Dix, U.S. Army locomotive. This was a Bob Farrell photo of one of the 44-tonner locomotives at Fort Dix. So now we're going to shift gears a little bit and go down Hanover Street to South Pemberton. And I'm not sure where this map, I'm gonna go back for a second, here you go. Not sure where I got this map at, but I guess where the gas station was the town hall. I'm guessing that's where Burger King is. So it says Grist Mill up here. That's what you'll see here a track, and then you'll see what's called like a team track for freight or drop off cars. South Pemberton, we're not exactly sure of the year here, but based on the photo, we figure we're looking west. And then there was another station at the site. And I'm not sure though if this is Hanover Street in the background or not. We weren't sure about that. Just trying to put the placement of the station.
I'd say so, with the lake in the background.
Okay. Going over to New Lisbon, a couple of pictures from there. And this is gas electric with a mail car in Lisbon sometime between 1949 and 1950. Photo that Tom Besselman shared with me of the Browns Mills Junction Tower. The tower operator, tower. Some shot of some Browns Mills Junction. Better shot of it. Now there's 1893 in Browns Mills. We're not exactly sure where the water tower was, and also if trains turned there on a turntable. Brown's Mills in the Pines, March 1893. Picture from the Pine Barrens, New Jersey book, terminus of the Philadelphia Long Branch Railroad. Now, I don't know if anybody recognizes these two names. Ed Balker and Harry Street, during World War II. Guess not. Okay, further on down, you come to Upton. And Upton looking west, I'm told, from the Route 70 overpass, which is gone. So now we're on to wrap things up a little bit. Let's go along the back road today. So first we have two customers in Burlington County. We have Roosevelt Paper in Mount Laurel, and we have Hainesport Transportation Group in Hainesport. Roosevelt Paper gets large rolls of paper, coated and uncoated rolls of paper in boxcars. Hainesport Transportation Group hauls demolition material, asbestos, recyclable material, special waste. Store containers on their site. There's also a coil car steel company in Hainesport Industrial Park, but a lot of the trash gets shipped to Ohio. So this is just a couple of my pictures of coming back with some boxcars ready to, they're coming back to facing Camden to deliver boxcars of paper to Roosevelt Paper. Now we're out at Hainesport Transportation Group. Basically what they send out is they have some smaller dumpsters too, but tarred waste, which that's their one of their two track mobiles that shift cars around the industrial park before Conrail comes to get them or puts them in. Now, this is 6 Hainesport industrial cars that I saw going, they're heading west in Pennsylvania across the Rockville Bridge. They're crossing the Susquehanna River between Harrisburg and Marysville, headed towards Ohio. So interesting where you can see everything come from. So for that, I'd like to thank all of you for being here this morning. I'd like to thank people who helped me with putting this together, and apologize to anybody I missed. And one last reminder, I know there's no tracks here, but this is from the Operation Lifesaver program. And if you're driving somewhere near tracks, be careful, because if you see train tracks, think of train and you don't want to become a statistic. And that's it. That's the program.